Time we saw how we created a function. Yes. Yes, I am sure. We can't tell from the yellow one. Just double check. Yes. Thank you. So we did create a simple tax function. We're going to review it. Just review the concepts behind it, how we can create a function, how we can use it. We're going to create together another one a little bit more complex. That's replicate the functionality for bracket. Think a lot about similar like nested if statement we did before, just like the category. We're gonna look at that for the sales and homework too. All of these long complex functions, formulas, they could be user-defined functions. Therefore, you move the logic from the formula here to a VBA code. There's a way to do that. Okay, so let's go over simple tax bracket. I'm gonna go step by step. To open the editor, you go to Developer, Visual Basic. Actually, there's two ways. You can create Visual Basic that will open the editor in general. If you want to open a specific sub, or also known as macro, we'll go to, under Developers, you get Macros. We didn't create any sub, so we have to go there. Usually if you have macros just like the one we did last time, like fill A1, it will show up here, then you click on it and you click edit, that will open right there. So we'll go back to Visual Basic. Yeah, you had a question? Yes, thank you. Thanks for the reminder. So let's review the function we created again. So the functions, all the code belongs to a function has to be within the block. The definition of the function, you have to write the word function, and then your name, the name you want to pick for that function, and you cannot use a name that's already reserved by Excel, which mainly used by built-in function. Yes.
We don't have a developer tab. We go to File Options.
If you don't have a developer tab, you go to File, Options, Customize ribbon, and on the right side you check the developer checkbox. So the structure of a function, you start with a keyword function, and then your name for that function has to be unique, not used by Excel, and you cannot create two functions with the same name in the same Excel file.
Wait, what? So when you're in Excel, so you click on Visual Basic?
Yes.
Okay, and then it opens. So
okay.
First, I can't see anything.
So if you don't see module 1 here under modules, let me cut this and delete it and take that step. Okay, remove module 1 now. So typically if you don't have that, you right-click on the VBA project with the file name, and you create insert module. Class module. Delete that. My mistake. It's just a regular module, not a class module. Insert module, and then here you write your code. Okay. One more thing. When you go back to Excel, you want to save as. Okay. When you want to save as, actually press F12. You notice the save type is Excel macro enabled workbook. It's not XLSX, it's XLSM. If you don't save it with this format, once you save it and close it, you lose your code.
What do you say?
Macro enabled workbook, not Excel workbook. So XLSX files don't have any code. You can write code, but once you close it, if you don't save it as XLSM, you lose your code. Many people made that mistake before. They work all time. Actually, I think one did it during an exam. Yes.
So if you do something in module versus actually just like in the sheet, it's universal for the entire workbook. Like, you
The
know,
one in module become universal to the entire workbook. If you do it only in the sheet, under the sheet page, that function only available only from that sheet.
That's when you choose the Excel.
Correct. So again, you have to save the file as a macro-enabled Excel file. The reason is, just give you a little historic background. Before Excel 2007 or 2010, forgot, probably 2007, Excel, either way, with macro, without macro, they all used to be saved as XLS. And it was a security issue because some people used to put really bad code there that will do something to your computer. Send it as attachment. When people open it, they can't tell if that has a code or not, and it automatically executes. So in many cases, those files were like blocked by spam filters and others. So they made that distinguish. So two different extensions. So when you see XLSX, you know this doesn't have any code. If you send an attachment XLSM, in some companies actually, this attachment will be blocked. So just this is the reason why they had to break them into two. Okay. So we'll go back to that function. So we have the name of the function. This is a parameter. As I mentioned last time, the function is a box. It takes input and it spits out output. It can take multiple inputs, but the output is always one output. Could be any type. So a function actually has a data type just like the input. You can input a double value, like a decimal value. The output could be double, could be something else. Okay. So, and within the function, in order for the function to return a value, it's a key thing. Just before the exit, before end function, which closes the function block, you need to have the name of the function to be assigned a value. This is how the function returns that value. You have to say simple text equals whatever. Otherwise, the function will exit with nothing.
Why is there as double and then as double again?
The first as double is for the income.
Okay.
So the input has to be a double type.
Oh, and then the simple text.
And then the return, the simple text itself, is also returns a double type. Okay.
Do you have to write everything in one formula since you didn't specify what to return?
One for the return, you can have multiple formulas, but the last one you should have, at least the last one you should have the return value assigned to the function type.
How the function know which variable to return?
It doesn't return a variable. So this input parameter income is to be used to calculate the simple tax. So this is the input and this is the output. When we see more examples, it will be clear to you. If you have still a question, let me know. So before we go to the bracket, let's create another function. Let's say you want to distinguish between, you have a threshold to consider an income if it's low income or high income. Based on the numbers, let's say you have a threshold of $150,000. If it's less $150,000, it's called low income. Higher than 150, high income. Typically, what we do in a regular formula, so you'd say if this value less than 150,000, then high income is no, otherwise it's yes, correct? And we apply that. What if you want to do it in a function? So let's do that together. So let's start a new function. Let's do it together. What are we gonna call this? Called is high income. What's the input? To define if a number is high, it's considered high income or not, we need to provide the income itself. And we'll use the same like above, and has to be double type. What's the output? What type of output is it? Could be either one. Do you want it true or false, or yes or no? Let's try true or false. True or false is what type in Excel? It's called Boolean. And enter. Okay, now I need to write my code. It's exact same logic in terms of the if statement. So we're going to start with if. If what? Income less than 150,000. Then is high income equals. You notice as soon as I use the function name is high income equals, I want to assign a value. Because it is Boolean, as soon as I typed equals, it gave me the option true or false. A Boolean type variable or data type can only has one or two values. It's either true or false. Cannot be anything else. So let's look at the autonomy of the income, the if statement. So the if statement, basically, you check for a condition. Same like the one you use in the formula. You can put this in parentheses, doesn't really matter. So this condition typically depends on the value of income. It returns either true or false, correct? When income variable has a number, it has a value, depends on the value of that income. It's either less than 150,000 or not. So if it's less, so if this condition is true, then you notice the words in blue are keywords. So an if statement has to have if, has to have then. The else part is optional and has to end with and if. So if a condition is true, then do this. Otherwise, do that and if. Okay, I want you to create this function, and then we'll use it in the Excel sheet. Yes.
How is this advantageous over doing it with formulas? Why is this?
This is just a simple, but if you have a complex formula, you can use this to make your Excel sheet simpler.
Okay.
And this is better than using a formula because the formula is not only in one cell. If you have like 15,000 or 20,000 data, if you use it in multiple, if you have thousands of rows and you use it in multiple sheets, if you need to make any change to that formula, you have to go change the whole thing. Here you change it in one place and it automatically applies whatever you use in this one. This is basically the threshold for, in my case, for what's considered a high income. If it's less than $150,000, it's considered low, otherwise it's high. Now this is my condition to consider an income as low or high. Okay. Did we all write this? Anyone has a problem? We're in the lab, so we're here to practice. If you have an issue, let me know. We'll move slowly. Anyone has any issues creating a function? Already created. So, question on the case sensitivity is the function name capital letter or lowercase or cap? It doesn't really matter. So, any VB driven, Visual Basic driven language, VB is not case sensitive, unlike Java or C derived languages. I'm not sure about Python or others, it is case sensitive. So in other languages, for example, you can create a variable test int as integer, and you can create another one called test int, and these will be considered different in C++ or Java or Python. In VB, it's not. Because I can simply type test int and hit space. You notice it automatically adjusted this one to the one I typed. If I do test int with capital T, I change it, it changed the other one. It's not case sensitive. Yes, Darina. So this next. So just want to make sure that we all created that. Okay. So now we created this. Let's go back to the Excel sheet. And let's create another column called another high income. Use the word F for function. And now we can say equal is high income. As soon as you type in ISH, it's going to show you your option and it will be included there. And then I can hit tab, and then I select as input the income, and I hit enter. So this is the syntax. Yes. So this we have here is that we have two functions with the same name, so it's self with the question. Wait a minute. Yeah. Hold on.
And then most like well,
Where? Yeah. Oh, that's your VBA. Oh, oh, oh.
Really?
So either way, oh.
Ah.
So make sure you don't have a bad case of copy paste. Not to name anyone, but did copy paste from the first one. It's high income equal false. So it's if it's less, it's false, and it's higher, it's also false. Make sure after you copy paste, it takes time.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just something else. It's not really. I don't know. I'm getting an error. I didn't know I was getting an error.
Yeah. Yeah, any question on this function?
Really good.
And again, the reason we use the function, even though in this case it's a very simple formula, but just like a concept of prototype. Ideally, if you have a complex formula that you use it a lot in your Excel sheet, in different sheets, anytime you need to go back and change that formula, it's a pain. You have to go everywhere you use that formula and update it. If you use a function, you have one place to check and make change to it, and it will automatically apply it wherever you use it. The second reason, if this is a function that say you use it a lot in your day-to-day work, no matter what Excel sheet you use, there is a way you can create your own library of functions, save them separately, and automatically load them with Excel. So no matter what file you're working on, you can use those libraries on them. So keep that in mind. But even just from the perspective of using it on the same file, within the same file, if you have a complex piece of logic, it's easier to read when you put it in VBA code and easier to maintain. Okay, so any question on this structure? One thing I noticed, a lot of you guys didn't use indentation. If you notice, if you didn't do that, look at your code and look at this. This is easier to read. Like within the if statement, the next one, just make it a little bit to the right. So at least you know when the if starts and ends, you know this is one block. So you're gonna get to a point where you're gonna have multiple if statements. It's good to distinguish each block separately. I mean, to Excel doesn't really matter. You can put them all to the left. But for you as a human being to read them and to be able to look at it, analyze it quickly, it's better to use this formatting. Okay. So we can copy this function. We create another variation when it returns a text, which is either yes or no. So I copied the whole function. I'm going to call it is high income YN. I need to change the name. It cannot be the same name. I changed the name called is high income yes no. And the output has to be what if I need it as a text, as a string. One more shortcut. When you type keyword, it's enough for me to type str after as str. Once my value I need is highlighted, I hit tab. It automatically selects it. I don't need to type the whole thing. So now I go to the same logic, to the same if statement. Now is high income, it's a different name. It's high income, yes, no. And has to be equal, instead of false, has to be no. I'm going to increase the size a little bit of the font, so it's, so let's look at this function now. So I create a function that does the exact same logic, but it returns yes, no instead of true or false. So the difference is that the output of this function is a string compared to a boolean. So I can use any word I want as an output. So same logic, but the assigned value on the output is either yes or no. You notice these are written between double quotes, just like in a regular if statement. If the output is a plain text, put it between double quotes. Otherwise, you notice is high income is not between double quotes because it's a variable or it's a function name. Only keywords, function name, variables don't go between double quotes. Yes.
Logic for
Can you see that again? Same goal? Yep. So if you wanted to return blank, if you don't want to show no, you only wanted to show a value if it's yes, yeah, you can just remove blank and leave just 2 double quotes. Yes. Any question on this? So if you get this yellow highlight thing clicked, there's this top icon on the top, this one here. This will stop the execution of the function.
Yeah, I heard the first one that didn't work. But yeah, that normally won't work. They'll put the process down. So. I know. I do all the time.
Okay. Any question on this? You guys all managed to do it? So the next step on the if statement, what if you have multiple conditions, which is going to lead us to the bracket? What do you have multiple thresholds to check against? So we're going to see how we can expand if, use nested if, multiple sections. So we're going to have to start with if, same thing. But if you have a second condition, the other keyword will be else if, that's for the second condition. Then otherwise else if, and the last one will be else. So let's try this against in our scenario, see what are our brackets. Okay, let me move this to the right. So the income brackets is 50,000, 50 to 100. So I'm going to create the function right after simple function. So create a new one called function called bracket tax. And the input is income as double, and the output is double, correct? Okay. So the first, I start with the first, I want to go up. So the logic I'll use, same like we do the formula. I'll check if it's less than 50,000, the tax is 5%. If it's less, after that, if it's less than 100, then it's 10%. After that, if it's less than 50, then it's 15. Else, if it's less than 5,000, 100, then it's 20. Otherwise, it's 25. So say if income less than 50,000, then bracket tax equals income times how much? 0.05. Else if, one word, income is less than 100,000, then equal income (0.1). Now I can use copy paste, but I have to be careful. So I still have 1, 2 after that. 1 and 2. So to do indentation to the right, you hit tab, right? To bring it back, you do shift tab. So if I'm here, I want to bring it back, I hold the shift button and then I hit tab. That will bring it back. Okay, so let me update these. So the next threshold is 250. And the rate associated with that is 0.15. The one after 15 is 500,000, and the rate will be 20%. The last one, the else, this is if none of these previous conditions match, the last one will be, I'll use simply just else. So then bracket tax equals income times 0.25. And of course, every if statement has to end with and if. Yes. Ideally, yes, but we're not doing this. So what this question is, in real life, the bracket tax will be, the first 50,000 will be taxed at 5%. 50 to 100, the amount above that will be taxed at 10%, and so on. Called cumulative tax. It will be cumulative tax. The higher the value, yes. Who's from Europe here? William, you're from Belgium, right? You guys have the highest tax in Europe, 60% of income, and people here are complaining. But you get free school and free healthcare. So what you doing here? Good for you. Yeah, actually, at some point I was looking into like moving to Europe, and I was looking like from tax perspective, Belgium has the highest in the whole Europe, more than even Sweden or Norway. Any question on this? Is it clear how this logic works? If you're done with it, try to test it. Right. So let's say if you have the rate next to each cell, then you can provide multiple inputs. It would be like providing income and rate. And based on that, you can provide multiple inputs.
And then so like
Correct. So ideally, imagine your formula like I presented as a box. How many inputs? Or when you write your formula, what do you need to plug into that formula to get that output? These are your inputs. If this input is constant, then you don't need to provide it from outside. It can be from within. If it may vary, depends what the input, then it has to come from outside. In this case, basically, just this example just designed just to show how you can do multiple if statements. So you can see this is easier to read than when you put in your formula. When we did the multiple, the nested if, which is kind of a nightmare for most of you. This is much easier to read. And once you learn it, you can write it here and just simply use it as one function in your data. So anyone having a problem with this? You're gonna go back and see an example for the homework. How could you done the category using the same way? Yes. Yeah. Go ahead. I think what do you mean? For that one, for the commission example, yeah, you need to provide two things. To calculate the commission, you need to know how much the sale is, based on which there's a commission rate. You need to get the date, so you know if you need to multiply by 1.5 or not. So you need two inputs. You have the sales input, and either the whole date or just the month number. There's different ways to do it. You can do combined condition. You can use and or here. But that's not the right way to do it. We'll go over it later. Ideally, you create two different blocks of if. One for the date, and you specify if there's a multiplier, 1 or 1.5, and one for the commission, and then you multiply them. Otherwise, this will become too long because you need to address every combination. Okay. Any question on this one? You all write it and test it. Is it working? Yes. Anyone having a problem with the function isn't persistent one correct result or something more different? The one that we call here, the bracket. They felt like that this value didn't get assigned. So by default it's 0. And let's get assigned. So this is considered as a new variable. So yeah. So here's a situation you may want to consider. So she has a misspelling at the end here. Excel doesn't warn you about it, even though you haven't declared this. Excel knows that bracket text is a variable and the type double. When you end up in a condition when none of these is true, it's actually above 5,000, it falls here. But here she has a misspelling. So Excel takes this as a new variable and assigns this value, but it's not the returned value that the function returns. So it ended up with 0. The way to prevent that, to prevent new variables not to be used if they're not declared. Yes. So on the top of your module, you add 2 keywords: option, explicit. In this case, if I try to run this, it's going to give me an error that this variable has not been declared and cannot be used. If I want to use it here, to give me error. Variable not defined. Otherwise, it will automatically consider it declared as variant. If you remember first class on Monday, we said if you don't declare a variable, there is a dynamic variable type supported by VB called variant that will accept it and will take it. But it's definitely not best practice. That's why what we did yesterday on Monday when we did the test stuff, when we declared a variable, you always declare it. And ideally, I'm not going to force you guys to do it, but this is how you properly do it, is to use this on top. This will force, if you had any misspelling of any variable or keyword, this will warn you immediately. Otherwise, you get 0 on, or whatever, some cases, you get some random result, and won't be easy to tell. In this case, it's good to do copy paste. And again, if you have this declared, as you type, you don't even have to do copy paste. When I type, let's say, bracket, BRACK, I hit Control Space, it automatically completes it for me. Just I need to type the few keywords. And if there is more than one match, let's say BR and hit Control Space, it gives me options. This all keywords in Excel. So as I keep typing in, and I hit tab if it's highlighted, it goes there. So this is the easy way to use autocomplete. Another shortcut. If you want to open the editor, you can use Alt F11. That will open the VBA editor automatically. F11. You can find it actually if you go back to Excel on the developer. If you just put the mouse over Visual Basic, it tells you Visual Basic Alt plus F11. Gives you the shortcut. Oh crap, we're 5 minutes over. Do you have any question? The solution? The homework 4, you'll have it by tomorrow. Actually, I have it ready.
Is it long?
Let's do Monday. Wednesday. Fine, we'll make it do Wednesday. Wednesday at 12:01 a.m. No, I'm kidding. We'll do it Wednesday afternoon. Okay, for people on the line, I'm hanging up. Thank you.